of independence. But this year, the tradition came to an end. That's right. The New York Times spokesperson blamed it on, quote, human error. Imagine forgetting a 125-year-old tradition like that. That's not all. For the last 33 years on Independence Day, taxpayer-funded NPR read the Declaration of Independence on air. But this year, a segment on equality ran in its place. Joining us now with tonight's thoughts on all of this, Turning Point USA contributor and featured author at BizPac Review, Erin Elmore, and senior policy analyst at the Independent Women's Forum, Carrie Sheffield. Erin, I want to start with you. The New York Times, do you think they really forgot, or was there more reasoning in line with NPR? They just decided, you know, this just doesn't, this current environment, we don't want to be remembering the Declaration of Independence.
Well, I just wish that the New York Times would be a little more honest, because they tend to do this on several issues. But when this happens is when countries are leaning and lurching towards socialism. They don't want the young people and the readers to see what our nation was founded on and our great rich history of independence. They want to sort of push us away from these freedoms, more government control. And that's what you see happening in communist China and other countries. They tear down statues. That's happening here at home. They shutter churches. They sure want to do that here. And they destruct the nuclear family, because when you destroy these historical and important elements of a society, guess what happens? You rely on the government more and more. This isn't an accident. The New York Times should do better. And maybe they should take some time and read the great documents that our country was founded upon themselves. That's right. So maybe they'll get a little bit of a better taste of freedom.
That's right. Speaking of the government, Carrie, NPR, which is taxpayer financed, at least partially, used the 4th of July to point out the flaws in the Declaration of Independence. And I kept thinking to myself, why are we funding this with any amount of taxpayer dollars? I feel like the Republicans, they take back the majority. This should be at least one thing that's on the chopping block.
You know, the fascinating thing about this whole thing, Erin, is, and you both brought this up, you look at America, we are one of the longest living democracies for a reason. Our founders set it up in such a way that we should remember these things. So to read them every year is beneficial to the American people to understand, but that's it. They don't want the American people to remember that anymore. And you have all these people burn it down. But if you don't even know what you're burning down, what are you even talking about? You're just burning down things in blindness. And I think that's the problem. The American people are not as informed as they should be. And now you have publications like this almost dumbing down the American people, Erin.
I think that's also intentional. You know, when people are less intelligent, and by the way, when they are more fearful, they are easy to control. So the COVID hysteria is definitely a big part of playing into all of this. But I think that we live in a culture right now where they do not want our children to say the Pledge of Allegiance in school, or read the Declaration of Independence, or understand what the Constitution is, or know who George Washington is, aside from the things that they want to point out that may or may not have existed and been negative. This is a direct attack on our children. Instead of teaching them, by the way, math or science or reading, they're trying to teach them sexual education and pronouns. So all of these elements really are working together to sort of make our children less aware, less independent, and less intelligent. And that's why, as parents, as we have to fight for our kids and pay attention to everything they're reading. And as Americans, we need to make sure we teach the great history of our nation to the next generation, so democracy remains in one of the last countries in the world. So it's very important.
Carrie, I have 30 seconds left here, but do you think the Republicans are doing enough to speak up so that this doesn't continue to become a trend, and pay for NPR to do this? 30 seconds.
Slavery was all over the world. The United States and the Western civilizations were at the forefront of defeating slavery through Judeo-Christian values. That is the truth. And slavery is so predominant elsewhere in the world, including in communist China.
Erin, Carrie, thank you both as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.